Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, obviously a lot to talk about today. Another day, the government shutdown continues. There is no end in sight. It looks like it's going to last at a minimum now the rest of the entire week. So this story is not going to stop. It's going to continue to go on and on and on. However, there are some very important, huge stories that also need to be covered as well. And to show you how bad the problem of illegal immigration has become in our country, what an invasion it has truly become. This is it's a stunning story. It's almost an unbelievable story, to be honest with you. And it's an embarrassing story. And how it got to this point, I don't know. But we've got a problem. We've got an absolute problem, Kuhner country. So listen now to this. In Des Moines, Iowa, the superintendent for that city's public schools, which is the biggest public school system in the entire state. Now remember, Iowa is a red state. Des Moines is a blue pocket. Yes, no question. It's one of the few Democrat strongholds they have. But still, Iowa overall is a red state. And yet, they managed to have an illegal alien from Guyana as the superintendent for Des Moines public schools. This is how bad it has gotten in our country. And so here is exactly what took place. Last week, to the shock and horror, not just of people in Des Moines, this is a massive national story, to the people across the country, ICE agents arrested Ian Andre Roberts. Ian Andre Roberts was in a Des Moines public vehicle. They had given him a car. Why? Because he was the superintendent who had been hired several years ago to be in charge of the public school system in Des Moines. And yet he was pulled over by the ICE saying that there was a removal order, a final deportation order for him issued by a federal immigration judge. He then engaged in a car chase. The police and the ICE had to chase him down in their car. He then fled his vehicle into the woods. Eventually, later, he was caught and arrested. They found in his vehicle a loaded handgun, $3,000 in cash, and one of these, if you've ever seen the movie First Blood, like this massive long blade hunting rifle. And people are asking themselves, how the hell could this have happened? And it turns out that the Des Moines public school system, the school board, hired a man who was an illegal alien to collect, listen to this, a $300,000 a year salary, in which he was the one who oversaw policy and the running and management of, 30,000 students, 5,000 employees, the largest school system in Iowa. Ian Andre Roberts came to the United States in 1999 on a student visa. He then overstayed his visa. He was in the United States for decades without work authorization papers. He was an illegal alien. And yet, during that time, listen to this, he went from school system to school system from New York to Maryland to Pennsylvania and then eventually to Iowa, where he was collecting six-figure salaries in job after job after job. And how did he do this? How did he do this? According now to the Des Moines public school system, right, man, this guy's, what is he, 54 years old, 55 years old? He's been doing this racket for 25 years. He gave them a driver's license and a fake social security number. And that was good enough as proof of citizenship. And they said, okay. And they hired him, and they gave him a $300,000 a year salary and a government-issued or a public school system-issued car. Never mind all the other perks and benefits. But it gets even worse. He claimed in his resume that he has a PhD from Morgan State University, which is an historically black college in Maryland. That was a lie. He doesn't have a PhD, supposedly in urban educational leadership. He literally made it up. He made it up. He gave himself a PhD on paper. Nobody bothered to check. He then claimed that he got a graduate degree, a master's in business from MIT here in our neck of the woods. Guess what? MIT issued a statement saying, this guy never went to our school. Not only did he not get a degree, he never went to the school, for God's sake. And then they began to find out that he claimed false awards. He claimed when he was working in Washington, D.C., that he was given, quote unquote, by George Washington University, Principal of the Year. George Washington released a statement saying, we don't give those kinds of awards. A, we never gave him any award. And B, we don't give awards for Principal of the Year. We just don't do that. And the whole time, the Moonbats, and they're all liberals. They're all liberals. On the Iowa School Board, we're like, duh. Oh, okay. Oh, you got a PhD? Oh, yeah, duh. To this day, after this fraud and grifter has been thoroughly exposed, they're still calling him Dr. Roberts. I swear to God. In press conference after press conference, when the people of Iowa, the families, the parents are, how could you have hired this guy? You guys didn't do any basic vetting? You didn't do the minimum background check? You just accepted everything this guy said at his word? How could you not have seen he was an illegal alien? How could you not have seen he had no legal authorization to work in the United States? And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. Listen to this. In 2020, he was arrested on weapons charges, illegal possession of weapons. This guy had a criminal background. And they still hired him. And they're claiming, we didn't know. We didn't know. So you didn't know that this guy, A, had a criminal background? B, was an illegal alien? C, had phony degree after phony degree after phony degree? And D, had a removal order, a deportation final removal order. And you gave him the keys to the schools of Des Moines, Iowa? No. Not only is this shocking and stunning beyond words, the question you have to ask yourself is, how many more like this are in the system? How many more frauds like this guy are in the system? Now, let's be honest. Ian Roberts is black. He's from Africa. And the Des Moines public school system was itching under diversity, equity, inclusion to hire a minority at all costs. And this guy checked all the right boxes. And if you've seen pictures of him, he wears these three-piece suits with these bow ties. He's got this loud personality. He's got this shtick going. And he charmed people, and he said all the right things, and he padded his resume, and they said, you know what? Let's not look too deep. I'm telling you, that's what happened. Let's not look too deep. We don't want to know who this guy really is and how he got into the United States. Let's just turn a blind eye. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. There are so many angles to this story. Really, it's just incredible. Believe me, we're just skimming the surface. I'm going to get to this very soon, I promise. He was a registered Democrat. This illegal alien, this fraud, Ian Roberts, was not just a registered Democrat. He was an active registered Democrat, meaning he was eligible to vote in federal elections, state elections, local elections. This was in Maryland. And that apparently he had been voting. So when Democrats say, oh, illegals are not voting, bull, you know what, BS, this guy's Exhibit A. Now, I'm going to get to this because that's what's going on in Maryland. I thought things were bad in Massachusetts or, in California. You got to see what's going on in Maryland. Holy mackerel. But anyway, let that go just for now. So getting back to this fraud, Ian Roberts. What is remarkable about this story on so many levels, the chair of the school board that oversees Des Moines is a woman by the name of Jackie Norris, and you're going to hear more from her. She was Michelle Obama's chief of staff. So that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Who was the one that ultimately made the hiring decision? She did. And they said DEI all the way. Don't look too much into this guy. Don't look into his background. No. He checks box A, box B, box C, get him in there. Okay? Now, she, by the way, is going to run for the Senate. There's an open Senate seat now in Iowa. She's going to run for the Democratic nomination. So she's desperately trying to spin this because ultimately it's her and the board that were responsible for all of this. They are rushing to his defense. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. And so they finally had to accept his resignation. So when this story first broke, now again, I want to stress this. He's an illegal alien from Guyana and is now wanted on weapons charges stemming back 5 years. He has no work authorization in the United States. Then, on top of everything else, he didn't get a PhD, he didn't get an MBA. Half of his degrees are phony baloney. He just literally said, what the hell? Let me just make it up. He's a fraud through and through. When they arrest him, he's got by the way, it's illegal to have a handgun if you're an illegal alien. They catch him not just with a handgun. It was a Glock 19. The thing was loaded in his car. $3,000 in cash. Who the hell drives around with $3,000? What is he, a drug dealer? Like, seriously, who the hell drives around with $3,000 in cash? And as I said, a massive hunting knife. If you ever saw the movie Rambo, First Blood, you'll know what I mean. They could kill an elephant with that thing. And they're crying for him. No, I don't mean as an exaggeration. They first put him on unpaid leave. Then the Iowa Education Bureau, the bureaucracy in Iowa, they stripped him of his license to be able to teach or to be a superintendent. So, and then his lawyers had him tender his resignation. The board, in a 7-0 decision, this was like a big deal, accepted his resignation. They had no choice. But as they accepted his resignation, the board members started to cry because he was such a good man. I'm not kidding. They're like, oh, our hearts are broken. Why? Why did this happen? Why did this poor, decent man, this man who inspired our students, that's what they're saying. He was such a spark in every student's life. Oh, my God, what he did for our school system. Why did this have to happen? One woman on the board was crying and speaking in Spanish. In Spanish. Like basically saying, oh, my God, how could this have happened? Oh, my God, that they feel so sorry. And they keep, by the way, they're still calling him Dr. Roberts. Dr. Roberts, oh, that this had to happen. Doctor, we're so sorry. My deal. By the way, Guyana is an English-speaking country. They literally, the official language of Guyana is English. Like, well, what are you talking in Spanish for? Like, that's how stupid these people are. Listen now. This is the school board, okay? This is the school board. Quote, sadly, very sadly. Again, the doctor part. Dr. Roberts has resigned, and we've had to accept his resignation. The hate. How could they have done this to a good, decent man? Roll cut 20, a mic.
Friday morning, everything changed for all of us, including Dr. Roberts.
This is a sad and disappointing day.
It's sad and disappointing? No. Here's what I want to know. How was this guy not vetted at all? I'm talking the most basic background check. How did this happen? How do you hire an illegal? How do you promote an illegal? How do you hire someone who's literally about to be deported? How do you hire someone who doesn't have work authorization to work in the United States? How do you hire someone to oversee the school system, the kids? Dr. Kuhner here, WRKO. 617-266-6868. And I got my PhD from Morgan State University. I mean, what the hell? If you can't beat them, join them. Everybody's giving themselves a PhD now. Okay, just very, very quickly, because I do want to get to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. For those of you that don't know, and this is, by the way, this is such a shocking story on so many levels. Remember, we're dealing with, this is supposed to be educating, elementary school, middle, high school students. These are supposed to be educated people that sit on that school board. They thought Guyana was a country in Africa when they hire this guy, right? They think he's an American citizen now. He's got work authorization. He's allowed to be here. Everything is kosher. They're confusing Guyana with Ghana. Ghana is a country in West Africa. So these idiots on the board were literally patting themselves on the back, saying we've just hired, quote unquote, our first African-American, first black person, but African-American to ever lead the Des Moines public school system. like literally an African American. And it turns out, and by the way, this was the only thing he was honest about. He said, no, I come from Guyana. And they're so dumb, they don't know the difference between Ghana and Guyana. Guyana is a country in the northern tip of South America. To be exact, it's right beside Venezuela. It used to be a British colony, and if you look it up, the capital of Guyana, which tells you everything you need to know, is Georgetown. Literally, Georgetown. Georgetown. You're like, oh. Oh, it's not a Spanish-speaking country. Oh, geez, it's in the Western Hemisphere. It's not in Africa. He's not he's not an American. That part is, but he's not even African. I want to read to you a message. And by the way, these are the people that are leading our school children. 603 texted me, made a very good point. And by the way, you can text the Kuhner man, 70470, 70470. This is from 603, Jeff. And this is the caliber of people who say they want to lead our country, such as the chair of that board, Jackie Norris, who's going to run for Senate for the Democrats in Iowa. This was Michelle Obama's chief of staff. Not only is she aiding and abetting immigration fraud, voter fraud, hiring fraud, and hiring criminals, not just illegals, but criminals with, gun possession records, illegal gun possession records, and superintendents who have loaded handguns in their cars and $3,000 in cash. But this woman is so stupid, she doesn't know the difference between Guyana and Ghana. Listen to this. It's very, very good points made by, this is Marianne in Florida. And I think she hits the nail right. By the way, Jonestown Massacre. This is from Larry on Messenger. He said, Jeff, you know where Guyana's real claim to fame is? That infamous Jonestown Massacre. They all drank the Kool-Aid. That's where the expression comes from. He poisoned the Kool-Aid and told them to drink it. And they all went, okay. And they all drank it and they all died, including children. It was horrible. That was in Guyana. That's right there on the tip of South America. Anyway, this is from Marianne in Florida. And she makes a really good point. Jeff, so the woman on the board was speaking in English. The one that was crying, saying, oh my God, how could this have happened? Oh my God, our dear Dr. Roberts. This begs the question, is that woman on the board speaking in Spanish, is she also an illegal? And is that why she was so upset? I mean, if this guy can be caught after the scam that he pulled, she probably figures she's next. And the other one saying what an inspiration he was to the students. What was he inspiring them to do? Learn how to help illegals get into our system? Lie? Get six-figure jobs? And illegally vote? I am so sick of this liberal BS because they don't care about their own people. They don't care about Americans. We already know this. I don't know how this is ever going to be fixed. I don't know if it ever can be anymore. Well, not with these people. Not with, not, that's why you can't give them power. You cannot give them power. Look at them. Now, here's Jackie Norris. Now remember, I want to stress this. This is after he's been arrested. This is after it comes out that he's an illegal alien. This is after it comes out he had no right to work at all, never mind be the school superintendent, for God's sake. This is after they find the loaded gun and the cash in his car. This is after it turns out that he had fake diplomas and degrees. This is after his criminal background, the illegal weapons charges. This is after all of this. This is Michelle Obama's chief of staff. This is the woman that wants to be the next Democrat senator from Iowa. Listen to this. Here's what she said, and she's expressing the feelings of many, many moonbats in this country. Roll cut 21, a mic. All right, we're having technological problems. Mike's trying to fix it. Basically, she's saying you can be a good person and be an illegal. And that this is such a complicated issue because this guy was just such a good man and he was just such a dynamic leader. We got it, Mike? Go.
I think there's no doubt he brought spark and enthusiasm to education and learning, and you saw that in the kids. And that's why I think we really have to stay focused on how we're communicating with our young people, because citizenship is a very complex issue. Somebody can have citizenship status that may not be legal, and at the same time, a person could be a good human being.
I mean, it's not complicated. It's very simple. I don't think nothing is more simple than citizenship status. Okay, well, forgive me. It's like whether you're pregnant or not. Either you are or you're not. That's it. That's it. I'm sorry. You either you are or you're not. Either you are a citizen or you're not a citizen. It can't be more simple than this. Okay? Now, what the hell is so complicated about this? And notice he was a good human being. So you break our laws and you commit fraud. That's a good human being. You claim you have degrees that you don't have. That's a good human being. You walk around with an illegal handgun. It's, again, illegal aliens are not allowed to possess or purchase firearms. And not only did he have a gun, the thing was freaking loaded. These people are sick. They're sick. No, and I'll tell you what it is. Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. Jackie Norris is white. And she's a typical, privileged, guilt-ridden, upper-middle-class white liberal. And she thinks by hiring this loser, this fraud, on our dime, by the way, on the taxpayer's dime, that's, the $300,000 a year, that didn't come out of her pocket. Okay, let me ask you this. Should those involved in the hiring of Ian Roberts be fired? Every single one of them. Should they lose their jobs? I say yes. Moreover, the board is now claiming, the school board, that they outsourced the vetting and the background search to a firm, and that they knew nothing about the fact that he was an illegal alien, his criminal background, his fake degrees, all of it, that they were just completely oblivious. Do you believe them? I don't. I don't. And most importantly, how the hell does an illegal alien from Guyana with phony baloney degrees end up getting a $300,000 a year salary overseeing the education of the largest public school system in Iowa? And is this just the tip of the iceberg? How many more illegal aliens are there like Ian Roberts? 617-266-6868. Let's go to Russ in Rhode Island. You're going to kick us off, Russ. Thanks for holding and welcome. Russ, are you there? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Russ. Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
I look at this guy as a hero to all the parents in America who are struggling to pay for their kids' college education. This guy proved you don't need a college education to get a six-figure job. But you don't need higher education to work in higher education. It's unbelievable.
Anthony, I'm just curious. Do you think, I mean, is he just a really good con man and grifter? Or do you think those moonbats and liberals on the board knew he was conning everybody, but they deliberately looked the other way?
The great Ronald Reagan said it best. Trust, but verify. They all should be fired.
Amen. Amen. Anthony, do you think this is a one-off, or do you think this is much more prevalent than we'd like to think?
Let's just say Tom Homan needs to hire some more people because they're everywhere. I'm on a project right now, and the herd is being thinned out by Mr. Homan, and I appreciate it very much. They're everywhere. These white liberal women feel so bad for these people, but you know what? Rules are rules, and they're in higher education, and we're taught to follow the rules. The hypocrisy is so thick here, I just can't stop laughing this morning.
Thank you, Anthony. Me too, honestly. I mean, either you laugh or you cry, and I'd much rather laugh. Anthony, thank you very much for that call. No, look, just very quick, because I want to go right back. We reconnected with Russ in Rhode Island. Usually, right, when you think of illegal aliens, and you think about jobs and the jobs they're stealing from Americans, and he stole a job. Among many of his other crimes, he stole a job that should have gone to an American citizen or a legal immigrant to the United States. So he stole a job, and frankly, a really good job. I mean, the salary is incredible, $300,000 plus. You get your own car. I mean, you know, they pay for your gas. I mean, they pay for everything. I mean, it's a really, really, you know, it's a job with a lot of nice perks. Okay, it's a nice plush job. You think of illegal aliens, you think, well, they work in construction, maybe fast food, textiles, whatever, chicken processing plants. You know, you think blue-collar jobs, low-skill jobs. That's what you normally think that illegals are taking and stealing from Americans. No. Increasingly, a lot of illegals are coming in, taking, if you want to call it, jobs with that you need a quote higher degree. They're coming in for STEM jobs, for some of these tech jobs. They come in on student visas and then overstay their student visa. And then they claim that they're on a work authorization permit when they're not. And they're taking a lot of these white-collar jobs. And obviously, people want to look the other way. And to me, what I find really disgusting is that this guy had fraud written all over him. You just have to look at the way he dresses. It was so over the top. With these like maroon three-piece suits, candy cane colored bow ties, you know, these funky glasses. And by the way, he wore Nike sneakers that the color would match the outrageous color of his three-piece suits. I mean, he screamed con man and snake oil salesman. And they just didn't care. And by the way, he knew nothing. He had nothing between his ears. That to me is the most shocking thing of all. He knew nothing about education, nothing about education policy. I mean, literally, it was, and the few degrees that he did get, I'm talking, these are like bargain basement schools. In fact, I believe he got one degree. It's an online for-profit institution. Basically, you pay them to give you a diploma. These are the standards to head the school system, the biggest school system in Iowa? I don't want to know what's happening in Boston. I don't want to know. If they're doing this in Des Moines, what are they doing in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, in New York, in L.A., in Atlanta, in Boston? I could just go on. I don't want to know what they're doing there. So, no. This is the tip of the iceberg. There's no question. So what is this now? We don't do any background checks whatsoever? We just, okay, yeah, sure. You're a U.S. citizen? No problem. Yeah. You got all these degrees? Yeah, no problem. Hey, you got a criminal background? Well, we don't look into that. No problem. 617, as long as it's diversity, equity, inclusion. As long as you're the right race or the right skin color. Now, let me throw this log on the fire. The Justice Department now, the Civil Rights Division, led by Harmeet Dillon, is now investigating the school board and the entire Des Moines school system for having engaged in discriminatory practices in having hired this guy. Because remember now, DEI is illegal. It's illegal. Trump signed an executive order. It's also illegal by law in Iowa. The Iowa state legislature passed a law saying affirmative action illegal, quotas illegal, diversity, equity, inclusion illegal. Signed by the governor. So they didn't just break state law, they broke federal law. Both. You cannot hire people because of the color of their skin or their national origin or their race. In other words, we want a black person. We don't care whether they're qualified or not. They've got to be black, or they've got to be Latino, or they've got to be Asian, or they've got to be a woman, or they've got to be gay, or they've got to be LGBTQ, or whatever it is. It's supposed to be based solely on merit, in which your race is irrelevant, your skin color irrelevant, your gender irrelevant, your sexual orientation irrelevant. They hired him for one reason and one reason alone. The color of his skin. Because he checked the right, and by the way, big lefty. He had all the left-wing jargon and talking points. This guy, equity, inclusion, diversity, blah, 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 blah. That's all this guy would mouth whenever he would talk to people. So he was a leftist. He was a Marxist who had the right skin color. Check, hire him. And just look the other way. That's it. Everything else, look the other way. It's illegal. It's illegal. It should be illegal. And I'm telling you, heads need to roll. Heads need to roll. And if I'm a parent, I'm like, so these are the kind of clowns and buffoons and incompetents that are running the school system of Des Moines? No wonder my child's education is all screwed up. The fish rots from the head down, as the Italians say. 617, agree, disagree? 617-266-6868. Russ in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Hey, 2 words for you. Mental illness. Mental illness. Liberalism is a mental illness. These people had to know he was a fraud, and I'll tell you why. Because when they found out he was a fraud, they still cry for him. They still call him doctor. If this was never found out, he would still be there. They are lying. They wanted the idea of him so bad, it didn't matter that he was a fraud. Absolutely didn't matter. And by the way, never mind all that. Never mind that he's a fraud. If they were truly frauded and were realizing it just now, they would be flipping out mad at this guy, but they're crying for him. They know. They absolutely know.
Oh, that's a great point, Russ. That is such a good point. No, you're right. You're right. If they were sincere in any way, shape, or form, then they would be livid. You're right. They'd be saying like, oh my God, he conned us. He defrauded us. You know, oh my God. I mean, they'd be even madder than we are, right? At least in theory. Instead, no, you're right. They keep calling him doctor. They're like, oh my God, why do we have to let him go? He was such a spark in the lives of the students, Russ. Russ, the kids loved him. You know, Russ, Just because you're not a citizen doesn't mean you're not a good person, Russ. So you're right. Their own behavior afterwards damns them. They loved the idea of him so much that they were willing to look the other way. Russ, outside of this loser being deported, do you think there's going to be any other consequences? You think anybody else is going to be held accountable or responsible for what they've done?
It better be. I hope so. If Harmeet Dillon's on it, there's a chance. These people need to be exposed, and we need to look all over the country for this stuff. Again, they loved him so much, the idea of him, the color of his skin, that they had to look past all this stuff. Never mind, if he wasn't authorized to be employed in this country, he committed ID fraud. Who were they paying? What Social Security number were payments going to? Had a gun, a firearm. He couldn't have one of those. How did he get that? He had a gun charge in his history. Look at how he behaved when he got caught. He ran like a hoodlum, and they're crying for him. You know what? I almost consider he doesn't bother me as much as they do. They need to get all over these people, expose them, embarrass them. This is insane. No wonder why this country's going down the toilet. These people are insane. It's a mental disorder.
Russ, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Should it be illegal? Do you agree? Should it be? I mean, it is illegal, but do you agree? Should people not be hired because of the color of their skin or their race or their national origin or their gender or their sexual orientation? Should we hire people, especially in education? I mean, in every position, in every sector, but especially in education, when you want the best? You want the best teachers in the classroom. You want the best principals. You want the best superintendents. I mean, look, I'm just going to state the obvious. American students, compared to students around the world, are falling way behind. And test scores after test score. China, just to give you an example, an American student, say, in grade 8, compared to a Chinese student in grade 8, the Chinese student is literally 4 grades ahead in terms of learning than the American student. So the American student may be at grade 8 level. The Chinese student is learning at a grade 12 level. You can't compete with that. You can't. And it's not just going to hurt us economically in our competition, but how do you compete then with immigrants who come into this country? Like, we're just shafting our own kids. Of course companies, I'm talking legal immigration now. Of course companies are going to hire legal immigrants over Americans. Why? Because their education is so much better than ours. I'm not going to hire somebody who's much less educated than someone else for a certain position, or, you know, they're more skilled and they have more education, they're more learning, they're just better. I go, no, I'm going to go with somebody, you know, who's obviously is much brighter and smarter and much better trained and much better educated. So all we're doing is literally impoverishing our own kids. That's all we're doing. 617-266-6868. Am I wrong? Jim in Norfolk. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I have a large family, and a lot of my kids went through the schools in the same district your kids are in. And I'll just tell you a quick funny story. The kids went right through the elementary school, bing, bang, bong. And one of the superintendents at graduation every year would read Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You Would Go" at graduation. And it's a great story, but I've dealt with these superintendents, and, you know, they swap school districts, and they go here to there. But about the 4th graduation, I was like, could we do something different? And it was so funny. And, you know, these people make huge salaries. And, you know, it was very age group appropriate. but like we really do not get a lot of money for what we pay these people. It's just unbelievable.
They phone it in. Oh, look, I mean, that's, they're notorious for that. Basically now a superintendent in the old days was a very prestigious position. You were highly educated. You were extremely well read. You knew multiple languages. The superintendent set the tone, the standards, in many ways helped foster the curriculum that the students would have to learn. And the superintendent was highly respected. And they worked hard. I mean, I'm not glamorizing or romanticizing the past, but really, they worked hard. They took tremendous pride in their job. These were, men and women of real learning and of real substance. Now, they're just basically glorified bureaucrats. Now, it's just DEI, that's all, diversity, equity, inclusion, rubber stamp the LGBTQ agenda, push climate change in the schools, and you don't care about test scores. You don't care about test results, reading proficiency. I mean, I remember, even growing up, my God, these superintendents would, we had these big, it was a bit different in Canada. It was a province-wide or a statewide exam that you'd have to take. And every school would be judged on how well the students did in each particular school district. My God, these superintendents, I mean, it was like getting ready for the Super Bowl. I mean, they wanted us to do well. They wanted us to be number one. They wanted us to excel. So they were giving us, they were forcing the teachers, no, come on, you got to prep these students. Give them more homework. Give them more better textbooks, for example, on Canadian history or on geography or whatever. Like, these kids have to know their stuff. Come on, we got to compete. We got to be number one. Now, you're right. They just the same speech over and over and over. It's an easy job. You want to collect $300,000 a year with a government-issued car. They pay your gas. By the way, 3-4 month vacations. They only work about 8 months of the year. A phenomenal health insurance package, dental package. You got an incredible pension plan. And basically, you're working 6 hours a day. I mean, you're not breaking your back. You just put your feet up and let the money roll in. So you're completely right, Jim. Jim, are you shocked that they would go this far? That this guy was such an obvious illegal with obvious fake degrees. My God, the guy even had a weapons possession charge from a couple years ago. I mean, boy, they really, they let a complete incompetent fraud become the head of their school system in Des Moines. Are you shocked that it was this bad and this egregious, Jim?
Nothing shocks me, Jeff. They get what they want, and they put them up there on the pedestal, and they don't look too hard. I'm an American citizen. I work in Boston. I went from one hospital, got a part-time job. I've lived in the country my whole life. I had to go back to like kindergarten to get some of my documents. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable.
Jim, Jim, I so agree with you. Jim, when I was hired at the Washington Times, okay, this was a long time ago. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining. I had to show them physical proof of my diplomas, my degrees. Like, that I had a master's degree. Yeah, here it is. Literally, here, we want to see the diploma. Sure, no problem. Here it is. My grades, my transcripts. I had to send them my transcripts. And they had to be officially from the university. Like, I'm just giving you an example. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, you didn't ask him for his PhD diploma? Like a physical copy? You didn't bother to ask for his transcripts? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, text line is on fire, and boy, you guys are lighting it up on Messenger as well. This is from Eric on Messenger. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you, Eric. Jeff, it didn't matter if he was qualified as long as he was diversity. No, it's true. I mean, it really is. As long as he was diversity, equity, inclusion, they don't care whether he's qualified, not qualified, a U.S. citizen. What U.S. citizen? It was illegal alien. They don't care. Real degrees, fake degrees. Hey, just give him his $300,000 a year and let's pat each other on the back. This is from Brian. Jeff. Once they saw his skin color, Guyana, Ghana, it doesn't matter. We have a winner. No, I mean, really, it's true. I mean, either you laugh or you cry, but it's true. They're that superficial. They're that shallow. They're that ignorant. Honestly, they're that stupid, but they think they're so profound. That's a typical moonbat. They're so arrogant and full of themselves. We believe in diversity, inclusion, and equity. So we hired somebody from Africa to be the superintendent of our schools here in Des Moines. Guyana? Same thing. God help us. God help us. That's all I have to say. And you wonder why education is in the toilet in this country. 617-266-6868. William in Lexington. Thanks for holding, William, and welcome.
It is amazing that everyone who listens to this show is on the same page constantly. Like, between you, Larry, Russ, and Anthony, it was like my fire was just put out. It was like... It's like, no, undocumented migrants are only coming here to, like, clean toilets, pick vegetables, become over-the-road truck drivers, cops in Old Orchard Beach, and superintendents in Ohio. And you're mad that the gun was loaded, Jeff. Come on, everybody knows that a gun without bullets is a paperweight. This guy is a go-getter. I mean, it's unbelievable. Oh, my God, we are doomed, Jeff. We are doomed.
William,
I got nothing else.
William, buddy, I got to ask you, seriously, are you shocked at this? That's a major job. I mean, you're running the Des Moines school system, for God's sake. That's not peanuts. As you said, that's not cleaning a toilet, or that's not, picking picking strawberries, or, that's not working on a construction site. I mean, that's 30,000 students, 5,000 employees. That's a massive budget this guy was overseeing. I mean, we are talking billions of dollars. And, I mean, he was a straight-up illegal alien. He was a criminal illegal alien. The guy had phony degrees left, right, and center. His car is he's got a loaded handgun. He's got thousands of dollars in cash. And this is the guy they picked. I mean, seriously, William, of all the people to hire, this is the guy they hired. What say you? I mean, are you shocked?
Well, I think Russ put it best when he said, it was either Russ or Anthony, when he said that they're still calling him doctor with this documentation in front of their faces. I mean, Jeff, rumor has it that this guy went to church with Reverend Jim Jones and he spit out the Kool-Aid.
Oh, that's a good one. William, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. And, I got to tell you, what's shocking is how easy it was. Elizabeth Warren was very similar. I'm an Indian. Okay. Like, hold on. No, but you're taking jobs away from people that it was intended to go to a Native American Indian. Like, don't you have to show some kind of, documentation? Well, you walk in with white skin, whiter than mine, blue eyes, blonde hair, and you tell me you're an Indian. And well, okay. Okay, $350,000 a year and you teach a class. How's that for you? Okay, Chief. No, I mean, is that how it works now? I mean, you just, okay. Well, hey, I just want you to know I got a couple of PhDs. I just want all of you to know this. One from Harvard, one from Yale. Let's throw in Princeton. What the hell? I mean, is that, so please call me doctor from now on. Okay. I mean, gee, it's just 617-266-6868. Mark in Lowell. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Boy, am I a sucker. Let me tell you, Mark. I could have been the superintendent of Des Moines, making $300,000 a year, Mark. All I had to do was say I'm black and I have a PhD.
The question I have for you is there's two of them. One is, first of all, like in this state, you have to go through a query if you're dealing with kids.
Yes.
I'm thinking it's a national program.
Mark, can you hang on? You're asking such an important question. Please hang on. I'm up against a hard break. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Mark in Lowell. Mark, you were making a very, very good point. There is Corey where you have to do these checks, especially when you're dealing with children. I know because when I volunteered at my church, there were children involved and they had to do a Corey background check on me. So never mind if you're a teacher or a principal or a superintendent or whatever it is, they have to do a Corey background. And a Corey background is a national background check. And what the hell happened to the Corey? Mark, please pick up where you left off.
So I think that's a very important thing to find out. It sounds like they buried it. They got the Corey check done so that they can say they did it, but they didn't show the result. And because if they showed the results, they would show a lot of fun stuff, obviously the criminal record. And how many people are doing this, and how many of these people that are illegals in high positions who have child abuse issues? And there's probably a ton of them. They're just, they're doing the DEI thing. But more importantly, there's the I-9 that every corporation or every employer is supposed to have on every single employee, because I'm an employer. And so you're supposed to have that. But all we do is we file it in our file cabinet, so if one day someone comes in and say they need to see them, they can see them. But the thing is these should be put onto a national database, and I bet you every single state has his Social Security number being used. I bet you a dime, because, there's only so many Social Security numbers you can use, and the 150-year-old ones are, they're becoming too obvious for the poor souls who are aiming for these Social Security numbers. To work illegally, which means altogether that all the people who are working in the United States have, they committed, the first offense, which was illegal immigrant, but now they're breaking laws. They're breaking ID theft. They're breaking all the laws associated with ID theft. So as far as I'm concerned, they're all criminals beyond the point of just an illegal, like mother bringing her two children over and trying to work underneath the table or something.
Oh, you're dead on. Mark, you're absolutely dead on. And look, all I can do is just, piggyback off of what you're saying. It was a fraudulent Social Security number. That there's no question now. Now, the other thing, just to add to what you're saying, it's now come out that, so he gets the job. Okay, this is in May of 2023. He gets the job. And they send out this big glowing press release. Actually, it was a big story in the Des Moines Register, in Iowa. I mean, his face was everywhere. his story was everywhere, in the media, in the newspapers, on TV. You know, this was, according to them, the first quote-unquote African-American to ever chosen to run the Des Moines schools. And so they were like, this is a big victory for diversity and battling racism and blah, 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 blah. So he begins his job formally. That's when he starts collecting a paycheck on July 1st, 2023. Now, the timeline is very important because listen to this. By the end of July, so he's now on the job 30 days, the school board that hired him, they get a report from the previous school where he was the head of. This was in Mill Creek Township School District in Pennsylvania. So he was making a six-figure salary in Pennsylvania. And they get a report saying, well, we just got notice that you've hired this guy, you know, Dr. Ian Roberts. Well, you have to, you know, we want you to know that he was named in a $250,000 settlement with a former employee while he was the head of the Mill Creek Township School District. Now, and apparently he mistreated people. And there was one employee in particular that said that he treated her in a degrading way, in an unlawful way. They don't, and apparently it was a confidential personnel issue. So they couldn't release the entire the file because it was confidential. But they were saying, we want you to know that there was a big issue with him in the past. And it cost us, the school board, the taxpayers, $250,000. Well, the school board buries it. Okay, well, it's confidential, so what can we do? And they bury it. But then they get notice, listen to this, that he was then involved at the same school district in Pennsylvania, as he's heading it, with another settlement. This one, $87,500. And then they find out there was a third settlement. This one, $66,000. So, in total, just that they know of, this is the board, they knew by the summer of 2023, the summer of 2024, that the Mill Creek system, the school system in Pennsylvania, he left them on the hook for $403,000 in legal settlements. In other words, this guy had red flag after red flag after red flag. And they're trying to basically tell them, as best as you can without violating the law, this guy is trouble. He abuses the employees. He mistreats the employees. He's so freaking out of control that literally we're out almost $500,000 the taxpayers had to pay in legal settlements. Like, in other words, wink, wink, don't hire this guy. Mark, they buried all of this. All of this. So I've got to ask the question, did they know he was an illegal alien? Did they know? Like, explicitly, no, he's an illegal. No, he doesn't have the right to work. No, this guy's a criminal. He's a criminal. He's got a criminal background, and now he's so out of control that it's costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's just from the last job. Now it's coming out that he was on the hook for other settlements in previous jobs that he held in Maryland. And they still look the other way. Mark, did they knowingly hire not just an illegal alien, but a criminal illegal alien? What say you?
I think they knew all about it. And especially as the stuff came out to them in confidential, situations, they already hired the person. So the problem was that, what do we do? And they probably didn't want to do anything because they wanted that DEI thing, and they overlook all the issues associated, as we already know. They look over everything. They even overlook the invasion on the borders. So this is nothing compared to letting 10 million people in.
That's an excellent point. That's a really, really good point. Mark, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. No, look, let me ask all of you, okay? All kidding aside. Okay, you're for DEI. I'm against it. You know that completely. But just for the sake of argument, okay, affirmative action, quotas, diversity, equity, inclusion, the whole BS. But this is the only guy you could find? Like, you can't find someone who's a U.S. citizen? You can't find someone who doesn't have a criminal background? You can't find someone who's not costing, school systems hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal settlements because he's completely mistreating and abusing employees? Like, this is what is the pool out there? The hiring pool out there, is it that bad? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, to me, one of the things that is shocking about all of this is for so many moonbats, okay, so for so many of these Democrats, the big issue regarding Ian Roberts and what happened in Des Moines, Iowa, is that he was forced to resign. I'm not kidding. They're upset, not that he was hired, not that he was caught with a loaded gun, not that he had all this cash in his car, not that they hired an illegal, not that he, on and on. I mean, I don't have to, keep going over everything. No. They're like, how dare you force him to resign? Like, what, you want to keep him on? I mean, this is unbelievable. All right, so that's number one. Number two, and this is now starting to come out. And again, Kuhner country, how many times do we have to be right? Seriously, we're always right, again and again and again. And what have we been saying for how many years now? That voter fraud is real, election corruption is rampant, and it's happening in state after state after state, especially blue states. Well, here it is. You want more proof? Here it is. So, apparently, most of his activity, I know he was hired in Iowa, in Des Moines, and got that big $300,000 a year salary, but most of his fraud took place in Maryland, Baltimore in particular. That's where he claimed he got a PhD from a school, Morgan State University. Not true. That's where he claimed degrees from other universities. Not true. But he also got his big first jobs as a principal, and it was in Maryland. So that's where he really cut his teeth. So he was active. So listen to this. He's an illegal alien. Illegal alien. There's no question. He was active as a registered Democrat for over a decade. For over a decade. He wasn't just registered to vote in federal, state, and local elections. But what the Maryland Election Board now admits is that he voted in prior elections, local, state, and federal. So here you have an illegal alien who is not just a registered Democrat. And by the way, he gave money to the Democratic Party. He was a contributor. So he's volunteering for campaigns. He's working on campaigns. He's contributing to campaigns. He's voting in elections. And the guy is a stone-cold illegal alien. So don't tell me that illegals don't vote. And don't tell me that there isn't voter fraud. Now, listen to this. Get ready for this. Okay? This is going to blow your mind. So as you know, the Department of Justice is now investigating the Des Moines school system, the Des Moines School Board, how they could have hired him. And did they hire him based on DEI, which is illegal? But what they're also now investigating, because Maryland Republicans are saying, we've been saying this for years. Illegals are registered to vote, and they're voting in Maryland elections for the president, for Senate, for Congress, for the governor, for the state legislature. They're voting and voting and voting and voting. So now, listen to this, the Department of Justice is investigating how the hell could Ian Roberts have been a registered Democrat, and how could he have been on the voter rolls, and how could he have been allowed to vote? So, they've asked the Maryland Elections Board to hand over their entire list of voters, saying we want to compare Social Security numbers to see if there are illegal aliens who are registered to vote. Do you know what the answer from the Maryland Elections Board was? 9. Go take a hike. Kiss it. Blank off. They're refusing to hand over the list. Now, the Department of Justice is saying, well, hold on. If you don't have illegals voting, if you don't have illegals registered to vote, and you say you don't, then what's the problem? We're just looking for illegals. And as the Maryland School Board now is tacitly admitting, and by the way, the number they're using is, they're saying this would disenfranchise. Listen to this. If we were to hand over this list to the DOJ, and you were to look at the fake Social Security numbers, and who is, registered to vote and who's been voting, this would, quote unquote, their words, not mine. This would disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of voters. Well, if they're on the up and up, if they're if they're citizens, then no one's being disenfranchised. And so what the school board is basically admitting is they have hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens on the voting rolls who've been voting like Ian Roberts. This is why I'm telling you this is a massive scandal. It's a massive education scandal, obviously. It's a massive DEI, illegal immigration story, obviously. But now, because this guy was so freaking greedy, and I'm telling you, I think the Democrats helped him rise. I believe, now when you see this, how many powerful Democrats coddled and protected him. They were grooming this guy to run for office. They thought that they could get away with this and that nobody would find out, and that eventually this guy, in 5 or 10 years, this guy would be someone they could run for national office. A senator, a member of Congress, whatever. And now they've been forced to admit that literally, at least in Maryland, but we know it's happening all over the country, but in a corrupt blue state like Maryland, illegal aliens are on the voting rolls. And they're on the voting rolls, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them. I want those rolls. I want that list. I want it now. I want to cross-reference all of these Social Security numbers. And I'm telling you, you are going to find an army of illegals like Ian Roberts who have been voting in elections for over a freaking decade. And by the way, here's even more voter fraud for you. While he was in Pennsylvania at that previous school district, making a 6-figure salary, but, harassing and abusing his employees, he was still voting in Maryland elections. When he was in Des Moines, making $300,000 a year, and Des Moines was his primary residence, as Pennsylvania previously was his primary residence, he was still voting in Maryland elections. And I'm telling you, he voted in 2024 for Kamala Harris. but as a Maryland voter. And that's why you don't have mail-in voting. That's why you don't send ballots in the mail. Because it's the easiest thing in the world to cheat. You just say you're a U.S. citizen, check that box, give a phony social security number, like this guy did. They gave him a driver's license, so he's got a driver's license. Well, here's my ID. And boom, okay, Ian Roberts, American citizen, registered to vote. And then you just send him the mail-in ballots. And he just goes Democrat, 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 and he mails it in. And he can even do it when he's in Pennsylvania, and he can do it when he's in Iowa. Now, this final part, what I'm about to say now, I have no evidence. Okay, everything up to now, 1,000% we have him dead to rights. So, he engaged in voter fraud. He engaged in mail-in balloting fraud. He voted in Maryland elections and presidential elections, federal elections, state elections, in Pennsylvania and in Des Moines. Okay, we've got him. This is massive voter fraud. It's ID fraud. It's work fraud. It's immigration fraud. It's education fraud. It's every fraud under the book. This part, I'm telling you, I wasn't born yesterday. When you've got a serial con man like this guy, a grifter, okay, a cheap hustler, I guarantee you, I'll bet you anything you want, this SOB couldn't help himself. I bet you he voted in Pennsylvania as well. I bet you he voted in Iowa as well. What I'm saying is, I bet you he voted multiple times. It's not enough to vote illegally once in Maryland. No. I bet you this guy voted in Maryland, and when he was in Pennsylvania, and then when he was in Iowa, and in Maryland. I guarantee you. I have no evidence. I'm just telling you. I look at this, and I can smell it. I go, this guy doesn't stop. This guy doesn't know when to stop. Now, let me ask all of you one other question. Okay? First of all, how rampant do you think this voter fraud is? Are you shocked at this voter fraud? And we knew illegals were voting, but again, we thought these were, people who do blue-collar jobs or whatever. They work at fast food restaurants or at construction sites or in textile mill plants or whatever. But now it's white-collar fraud, and they're voting as well. But let me ask all of you one other question. And I think this is a very important question for us to answer. How many more like Ian Roberts do you think are out there? I don't think this guy's a one-off. I don't think this guy is, wow, this is such an unusual case. I think this is very, very common. And I think the more we look into it, we're going to be shocked at how common it is. Just my opinion, 617-266-6868. Why did he need to have a loaded handgun? And to stress this, he didn't load his gun after he was chased by ICE. The gun was loaded in his car before he got into the car chase with ICE. So here is a guy making $300,000 a year in a a public school issued car. They pay for his gas. He expensed his meals. I mean, they paid for everything. So what do you need a loaded handgun? And it's illegal. An illegal alien cannot have a gun. So it's crime upon crime upon crime upon crime. Lies upon lies upon lies. Fraud upon fraud upon fraud. But why does this guy need a loaded handgun? Why is this guy carrying $3,000 in cash? Who carries $3,000 outside of drug dealers? Really, who carries $3,000 in cash? Or, you're about to go to some kind of a business meeting or something, whatever, and, you're going to purchase something with cash. Okay, but outside of that, I mean, who just, walks around with, look, I don't walk around with $3,000 in cash. I don't have $3,000 in my car. Yeah, here's some petty cash, $3,000. Yeah, right there in the glove compartment. I don't do that. I know nobody who does that. And who's got a mother hunting blade knife. Was he dealing drugs? Who was he involved with? There's something about all of this that just doesn't add up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Steve in the Freedom State, Florida. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
My points, but Jeff, I just got to tell you, you are wonderful. The things you discover, to your credit, thank God. Now, three things. I'll be really brief. Number one, Santos is serving, I think, 7 or 8 years for doing what this gentleman did. Number two, he filled out a gun application that should be looked at. Number three, which is going to lead to my larger point, the chief of staff of Michelle Obama was, as somebody said, was directly involved in his getting this job.
Oh, yeah. No, she hired him.
Yeah.
Jackie Norris. Just so that you know, Steve, her name is Jackie Norris. She's going to be the Democrat nominee for the Senate seat in Iowa. So just so that you know her name, Jackie Norris. Go ahead.
Major point. Okay, please. And I'm sure that the Trumps listen to your station. What we need to do as a country right now is identify the left wing in this country as communists. And we need to say what they are. They love the violence. All the blue states discourage and deter Donald Trump from preventing violence because they want violence. They wanted to arrest Donald Trump for so many things. They still may put him in jail if they get in 28. Look what they did to Rudy Giuliani. Look what they did to all the attorneys that tried to help Donald Trump. People have to wake up. We are now living without Donald Trump in a communist country. This is what they are. And we need to say it because there's a lot of independents out there that might relate to that and be fearful of that and be fearful of the repercussions if the Democrats get in. Barack Obama said many years ago he wants to transform America. He wanted his own army, his own military. Well, guess what? He's got it. And it's called Antifa. Now, people better wake up in this country because with all of the illegal immigration we've had, 20, 30 million people, many of whom are Chinese, many of whom are Muslim, many of whom are cartel-related, and it's so easy to get a gun in this country. Thank God that Donald Trump is bringing the military back into this country because we can get turned inside out so quickly, we will not be able to defend ourselves. So, from the standpoint of winning the election in 28, he's got to say, these are communists. The left wing of the Democratic Party are communists. And more people in the Democratic Party are communists. And we need to take a stand and prevent them from taking over this country. That's my major point. The only other last point I want to make is this. We celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. He was a wonderful man. He did wonderful things for black people, and he had integrity. The one man that black people don't give any credit to, who did more for black people in the United States than any other man in the history of this country, was the man that took a bullet to the head, and that was Abraham Lincoln. We should be celebrating Lincoln's birthday, and blacks, if they had any guts, would come out and say that man was a wonderful man and did great things for us, and it would go a long way to deterring all of this racism nonsense. Anyway, I'm sorry for rambling, but...
No, Steve, you're making excellent points. Look, Steve, you're right. You're absolutely right. For historically, until FDR, until the 1930s, the most loyal Republicans in the United States were blacks, the African American vote, because of their reverence for Abraham Lincoln. An election after it was almost 100%. It was the most solidly pro-Republican bloc. And they said because Lincoln freed the slaves and his Emancipation Proclamation, and they loved Lincoln, and they said they're going to vote for the party of Lincoln forever. Forever lasted almost 100 years, but that started to change under FDR. But even until the 1950s, Eisenhower, for example, got 25% of the black vote because of that still lingering affection for Abraham Lincoln, the Republican Party, what the Republicans did to win the Civil War, Reconstruction in the South. Remember, segregation and Jim Crow was completely run by the Democrats. They invented it, they enforced it, they implemented it. There was a democratic system through and through. The Republicans were dead set against Jim Crow. And, blacks used to know that. That's another reason why we have to teach history in schools. I'm sure whenever we have a lot of African Americans who listen, a lot of blacks who listen to the show. And I can't tell you, I'm probably going to get emails today. They're going to say, I didn't know that, Jeff. I mean, they know about Lincoln, but they're like, really? It was Republicans who led Reconstruction in the South? Yeah. It was segregation was completely implemented by Democrats, opposed by every Republican? Yeah. That blacks voted almost 100% for 80, 90 years for the Republican Party because they were the party of Lincoln? Yeah. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Did the Des Moines School Board know that their superintendent, this guy, Dr. Roberts, was an illegal alien, and they hid that fact? So let me ask you again. Did the Des Moines School Board know that this superintendent, he's now gone, but when they hired him, did they know that he was an illegal alien, and they deliberately hid that fact? A, yes. B, no. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and again, I'm always active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in National ER, at the Kuhner Report. I'm a yes on this. I think it's quite obvious. They hired him. They knew he was an illegal, and then they tried to cover it up. And now he's a great guy. He's a beautiful human being. He was such a spectacular school superintendent. The kids loved him. Oh, my God. How could he be forced to resign? How could you do this? This is the tip of the iceberg. When it comes to voting fraud, we need a complete audit. The voting rolls in this country have to be purged. It's not just in Maryland. It's not just in California. It's not just in Illinois. It's not just in Massachusetts. It's in state after state after state. And we need now to go after illegals in hiring in a very serious way. Because what happened in Des Moines should never happen again. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. And I don't think it's an accident. I really don't. That Michelle Obama's former chief of staff, Jackie Norris, was the one who hired him and coddled him and protected him and covered for him and is still crying for the guy. Because look, if you look at Obama, not Michelle, but Barack, the story is very similar to this guy, Ian Roberts. Look, a lot of people think he was born in Kenya. And I think as time goes on, it gets more and more obvious he was born in Kenya and that he committed fraud. Much of his education, completely fraudulent. Much of his background, completely fraudulent. The only difference is this guy got caught and Obama didn't. Or he partially got caught. But the media so protected him that he was able to essentially get away with it. But this is what they do. They identify people and say, no, we're going to make that person a star. Why? Because they check the right boxes. And notice, they play on white liberal guilt. They do it again and again and again. So, no, I'm not surprised this has the hand of the Obamas. And you can tell they were grooming this guy. He wasn't just going to be $300,000 a year was not enough. They wanted him to be Congressman Ian Roberts, Senator Ian Roberts, Governor Ian Roberts. And now their scam has blown up in their face. Agree, disagree. Phil in Missouri. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. I'm glad to hear you sound great, and sounds like you're getting your health back.
I am. My ribs are getting better. Thank you, Phil.
And you always say follow the money, and I say if you follow the money, who did Michelle Obama's chief of staff said they outsourced this to a third party. Who vetted these people? How much were they paid? Who else have they vetted? Where did the money go? And they're also paying this guy $300,000 a year. Are they getting his bank records to see what he did with his money? Was there any kickbacks? Because I find it hard to believe that somebody didn't know. I mean, this is a lot of money they're dealing with. They're giving him, close to $300,000 a year plus a car. And you ask if this is happening in other parts of the country. I would say who recommended these people that did the background and vetted this guy, and who else have they vetted? And then you'll find it. I guarantee you'll find more. And it's never going to be in Republican states. It's always going to be in, these states where it's, uber liberal, or in the cities.
Well, it's funny, Phil. Again, very smart. I got to say, again, very smart. It was a Democratic search firm. It's a Democratic organization with ties to the Obamas. Literally, they do a lot of work for the Obamas. So Jackie Norris, who was Michelle Obama's chief of staff, she quarterbacked this whole thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if kickbacks were involved. I wouldn't be shocked at all. And again, I mean, think about it, Phil. It's illegal for an illegal to have a gun. And this guy's carrying a loaded Glock in his car? Have you ever heard of a school superintendent carrying around a loaded handgun? An illegal loaded handgun. Okay, let's go. Lines are jammed. I mean, honestly, there are other topics the Kuhner man would like to talk about, but hey, if that's what you want to talk about, I'm here to serve you. Dave in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
How are you today?
Good. How are you,
Jeff?
Dave?
Not too bad. Just a question. This loaded Glock that was in the glove box of the vehicle, which was a state vehicle, which I'm sure that must break a law. Was this car ever parked with that gun in it in the school zone, in the school parking lot? Because please correct me if I'm wrong. That's a federal crime.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had that gun with him in the glove box at all times. So I'm positive he had it in the school zone. He parked it at the school. No, he was walking around with an illegal loaded handgun. And Dave, just to, give you a little bit of more information. Look, again, we're talking about a quote unquote school superintendent, Mr. $300,000 a year, who dresses in 3-piece suits and a bow tie. Okay. This is supposed to be, in theory, a leader of the community, a highly educated man. He's supposed to have a PhD. He's a fraud. He doesn't have one. He claimed he had one, but we're talking about a school superintendent, for God's sakes. He gets pulled over by ICE, and they say, "Are you Ian Andre Roberts?" And he says, "Yes." And that's when he realizes, they're here to arrest and detain me because they got a final order of removal. A federal immigration judge, this was last year, said this is it. He didn't show up at the final hearing. They said, kick him out, deport him, get his ass back to Guyana. He hits the gas pedal. And the police or ICE have to go, they chase after him. It's a car chase. He then abandons his car. He's flying on the road. He then goes into a wooded area. The police the ICE is following him. Law enforcement's following him. He then leaves the car and goes runs on foot. So, look, they've arrested him. They're going to indict him. I want him to be sentenced, and they're going to throw the book at this guy. And then I want him deported. I don't want to have to pay for this guy to be behind bars. Deport his ass back to Guyana, and if he ever comes back again, life in prison. That's it. It's over. But he committed crime after crime after crime. And this man was dealing with children. Now, I'm telling you, we're not getting the full story. I guarantee you, there is more to this. I don't know if he was involved in drugs. I don't know if he was involved in a criminal network. I don't know if he was involved in giving kickbacks to the people who hired him. It's going to come out. But nobody, look, to me, if you're an imposter, and that's what this guy was, and if you're a con man, a confidence man, and you're scamming people with fake degrees and fake diplomas and a fake social security number, false claims of citizenship, the last thing you want is to get yourself in more trouble. You don't want to have a loaded handgun. You don't want to have all this petty cash, thousands of dollars in your car. You don't want to be committing more and more crimes. So there was, I don't know if, was he blackmailing people? Was he holding a gun to their head? Who knows what the hell this guy was doing? So, Dave, and I'm telling you, and what I'm getting from teachers, I'm getting a lot of emails from teachers. They're saying, Jeff, people are just getting the tip of the iceberg. There is so much corruption in the education establishment, not just with superintendents. Illegals are being hired as teachers. Illegals are being hired as janitors. Illegals are being hired as principals. Illegals are being hired all across the education bureaucracy. It's a massive scam. Massive scam. And American citizens are being given the shaft because they should be the principals in our schools, or the teachers, or the janitors, or whatever they do in terms of the education system. And the reason why is this. I'm telling you, this is the scam. They pass them off as citizens by giving them these jobs. They give them fake social security numbers. They give them fake citizenship, or they claim to be citizens. And then they give them a respectable job, and everybody gets a freaking ballot. I'm Dave, I'm telling you, that's what's going on here. And on top of it all, the guy was registered to vote for 10 years in Maryland. And the guy voted again and again and again. And then when the Department of Justice contacts the Maryland Election Board and says he had a fraudulent social security number, how many others have fraudulent social security numbers? Their answer is, well, hundreds of thousands. Well, we want to see, are they illegals? And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that because that would, quote, this is their answer, compromise their legal status or compromise their immigration status. So they're basically saying, yeah, we've got hundreds of thousands of illegals on the voting rolls. And we don't want to hand that over to you because then you're going to find out. Now, that's just in Maryland. And hundreds of thousands is the difference between a I'm telling you, it's the difference between a Republican governor, a Democrat governor, a Republican senator, a Democrat senator, and it's the difference between Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And yes, Kamala took Maryland. Now I'm thinking they stole it in Maryland. But so what I'm saying, Dave, is That's why this is such, it's like an onion. You just keep peeling it and peeling it and peeling it, and it gets more rotten the more you peel. Dave, final word to you.
Would say that, like your previous caller said, follow the money. And I really hope that whatever money this guy has left from his $300,000 job, that those bank accounts are seized. And he should get nothing. And when they send his sorry ass back to Guyana or whatever it's called, it's just with the shirt on his back and the pants that he's wearing. And that's
amen.
it.
Amen. Amen. Dave, thank you very much for that call. And by the way, look, am I the only one? No, really. Like $300,000 a year. And again, if you want to get into it, he gets an expense account. We're looking at about a $10,000, $15,000 expense account. That's, a credit card, and you can put lunches on it and meals, and, I'm not kidding. Look, I used to say this to my students at McGill. I go, you would not believe the chancellor of the university, the president of the university, the heads of certain departments, they would have an expense account. And I remember and I'd say people would kill for an expense account. And I remember my students would say, well, come on, what do you mean? Come on, Jeff, a professor, they call me professor. Professor Kuhner. They go, well, come on, what is it, $10,000, $12,000? I mean, okay, sure, it's nice, but kill for it? I go, you have no idea what an expense account is. You don't. An expense account is a completely different level of lifestyle. For example, you eat at the best restaurants for lunch. You walk your dog. I'm not kidding. The president of McGill would claim the dog collar on his dog as an expense account. Because when he's walking the dog, he's thinking about school business. That's what he claimed. His gym membership, that was expensed. That's an expense account. Why? Because when he's on the treadmill, he's thinking about school business. So an expense account, you have no idea how that gives you a much better standard of, like, your lifestyle changes. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just super, super quick. So, if you want to understand why in academic circles, just to give you an example, why these fights, like who's going to be the chair of this committee or the head of this department, and they're vicious. I mean, they're vicious. The backstabbing, the backbiting, you're like, what are these guys? I mean, they're killing each other. The vitriol, the bad mouthing that goes on, these personal vendettas. I'm telling you, it's not just the bump in salary. It's the expense account. It's a different standard of living. It's a different quality of life. So again, the president at McGill, I'll just give you an example. Yes, we have gym memberships, $30 a month, $40 a month, whatever. No. He would expense account, what was it, $140 a month? Gym membership, swanky club, right there in downtown Montreal, where all the beautiful shops are and the boutiques and the fashion. And it's one of those clubs where they serve you orange juice. You're working out and they'll serve you juice, and you can have food as you work out, and they'll press your clothes for you. I mean, it's not your Gold's Gym. Let's put it that way. He would always go to the faculty club, which is a very nice place on McGill campus. It's expensive for everyone else, but the professors get a discount. Well, he would go there and have, I'm talking a 5-star meal, and just expense it every day, Monday to Friday. Expense it. So what I'm saying is, you have a $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 expense account. It's a different quality. It's your standard of living goes through the roof. You get all kinds of amenities that normally you wouldn't get. So he didn't just get a great salary, $300,000 a year, and the car, and the gas, and the health care, and the pension. He had a nice expense account. So why do you need $3,000 cash in your car? I mean, you don't get cushier than these kinds of jobs. And they gave it to him, and they gave it to him, and they knew that this guy wasn't illegal. That's the part that blows my mind. 617-266-6868. Patty in Drake. Thanks for holding, Patty, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to comment on the illegal aliens, but a slightly different topic than what you're covering today.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I think it's really important because these illegal aliens, especially in the blue states, they're getting a lot of fake documents, even from, like, the Registry of Motor Vehicles is giving out this crap. But, people should lock down their credit reports with the 3 different bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And I think a lot of people probably already do that. But in addition to that, people should also go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and lock down their Social Security number so these illegals can't steal your tax return or, buy a house or a car with your social. And the way to do that, you go to irs.gov, and then you start the process, and you're redirected to id.me. And you go through, it's a pretty long process because they want to verify that you are who you say you are. But when you're all done, you create a 6-digit code that only you and the IRS know about. And then when you file your taxes, you obviously have to give that code to your account.
Patty, you just died on me. Patty, did we lose? Mike, did you? Oh, it was just, okay. Something happened, Patty. I guess your connection went bad or whatever. We just literally lost Patty. But so if you want to call back in, please do, Patty, and we'll put you on right away. It wasn't on our end. That's what I'm trying to say. No, you're completely right. Look, that's why they had millions and millions and millions of Social Security numbers. Remember, this was one of the big things that Doge uncovered. People, born 100 years ago, 120 years ago, 130, 140, 150 years ago. And technically, they're all still alive. It's because these illegals were using all of these Social Security numbers. It's one massive racket. And look, again, slightly different, but it's all interconnected. There's a big scandal now in Maine. In which they found, what was it? She's back? Okay, I'm gonna go right back to her. Patty, hang on, I'm gonna come right back to you. They found a package that was mailed to someone with over 200 ballots on it, blank ballots. So you could just fill it out and send it in. Over 200 sent to one home alone. One home alone. It's a big scandal now in Maine. So what I'm saying is you have illegal aliens who are using fake Social Security numbers, who then claim to be U.S. citizens, and the key is they all get driver's licenses. So in this regarding Ian Roberts, the board was asked, because now you got reporters, you got angry parents, they're like, how could you just take his word that he was a U.S. citizen? I mean, he's telling you he's from Guyana, so on that part he wasn't lying, and you just took his word that he was naturalized? This was their response. Well, when we asked for identification, he gave us his driver's license and he gave us a Social Security number. And we said, well, okay, if you've got a driver's license and a Social Security number and you say you're an American citizen, you must be an American citizen. Now, that's happening all over the country. That's the standard. Low as that. So they give out driver's licenses to illegals. That's happening now in almost every state. All these illegals have to do is come up with a phony Social Security number, which you can buy at a 7-Eleven in the parking lot. I'm not kidding. And now you've got yourself a phony baloney Social Security number. Well, now you're gold. All you do now is say, U.S. citizen, check. Now, you get automatically the right to vote. You're automatically put on the voter rolls. Plus, you're now you're entitled to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, welfare, Section 8 housing, EBT. I mean, I could go on and on and on. That's the heart of the scam. That's why the media and the Democrats were determined to destroy Doge. Remember, they were freaking out. Fascism, Nazism, oh my God, he's going to fire everybody. Because they don't want this massive rampant fraud to be uncovered. That's the key to the fraud. Driver's license, fake social security number. From that point on, and you're willing to lie, obviously. And you're gold. You're literally gold. So you can fly in from Guyana or any place on the face of the earth, come in or walk across the border. It doesn't matter. This guy, to his credit, he's a fraud, but to his credit, he did come in on a student visa. In other words, he initially entered the country under legitimate purposes. And do you know how many students, by the way, foreign students we have in this country? Millions. So he comes in on a student visa, but I don't care, just cross the border. Literally, just cross the border. You go to Massachusetts, as an example, or California, take your pick, New Mexico, I don't care. They'll give you a driver's license. Okay. Now, you're already being given these prepaid debit cards. You don't even need to bring your own cash. Then you go to a 7-Eleven, say, I need a social security card. There you are. Fake number, fake card. You're gold. Then you go to your local welfare office. I'm an American citizen. Yep. Driver's license. Here it is. Social security. Here it is. Okay. So what bank do we deposit the checks to? Okay. Let me sign up for that. Section 8. Let me sign up for that. Hey, they're even going to pay for my heating in the wintertime. Sign up for that. EBT. Got to get that. Sign up for that. Ooh, the catered meal. $64 a day. They cater it. Really? Okay. Sign up for that. And check. And then you say, I want a mail-in ballot. I want to vote. What the hell? I'm going to vote for the party that's going to keep giving me all these benefits. The Democratic Party. Check. Send it to me in the mail. And this is happening millions and millions and millions and millions of times to millions of people all over the country. You want to know why Social Security is about to go broke? You want to know why we have rampant voter fraud and we don't have clean elections? You want to know why Medicare and Medicaid are about to go broke? You want to know why veterans are sleeping on the streets? You want to know why the potholes can't get filled? I mean, I could go on and on. So many of the problems in our country stem from illegal immigration and the fraud that enables it. That's what this case is showing. And what it's showing is how freaking easy it is to do it. And the cherry on the sundae, you can make up a PhD. And I don't even mean, let me pay $5,000 to some university no one ever heard of. You go online and they'll give you a degree after a year or two. And, you'll put a doctor next to your name. No, you just write one down. Honestly, he should have just said Harvard. I mean, he said MIT for his master's. That was a lie. I would have gone MIT, Harvard, or Yale. I would have gone Ivy League. I'm serious. I would have said, I got my PhD in urban educational leadership from Harvard. I mean, what the hell at this point? Go big. Hey, go big or go home. So now you can just make up phony degrees. And then you get all kinds of jobs that are paid $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. Nobody even checks. Nobody even wants to check. We're becoming a third world banana republic. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else to say anymore. And I'm not complaining. Please, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But my God, when I applied for a green card, when I applied for citizenship, when I applied for a job in this country, They wanted degrees, diplomas, transcripts, criminal background check. I mean, fingerprints, like everything. They drug tested me, for God's sake. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. So to people who come in this country legally, the right way, who love this country and want to contribute, they run you through the ringer. But if you're some third world guy or third world woman and you just want to come in and suck and suck and suck and suck this country dry, no problem, come on in. Just vote Democrat. That's all we ask. And now you wonder why we're $37 trillion in the hole. And our cities are like third world hellholes. And notice, we pay so much in taxes. Revenue, speaking of the shutdown, revenue has never been higher. And there's no money for anything. Have you noticed that? There's no money for the roads. There's no money for healthcare, for hospitals, for police, for fire department. The teachers who break their backs can't get a petty raise. There's never any money. But for the illegals, the sky's the limit. Like, enough is enough. We got Patty back in Drake it. Patty, I'm happy you called back in. So you were saying that this is so rife and so rampant that you're seeing it everywhere. Please pick up where you left off.
How much did you hear before we got cut off?
Well, basically, you were saying how you can get this everywhere, how easy it is to get a fake social security number, how they keep giving driver's licenses to illegals like it's candy, and then we lost you.
Okay, so in addition to locking down your credit report at all three of the agencies, also go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and lock down your Social Security number. So if someone is able to steal it, they can't steal your identity or steal your tax return when you file. And it's irs.gov. And when you start the process, you're redirected to id.me. And it's kind of a long process because they really want to make sure that you are who you say you are. And you have to upload the photos of the front and back of your license. And at the very end, you get a 6-digit code that only you and the IRS know about. And then you give that number to your accountant when you file your taxes, so he's able to process your paperwork. And you only use that code once. Every January, log back into your account and generate a new code. And that way, no one can steal your tax return.
Patty, that's dynamite advice. It is such good advice. Patty, look, you obviously know what you're talking about. I've got to ask you, how common is... I don't want to get into like identity fraud in terms of, people scamming the elderly, or I'm talking about illegal aliens when I say identity fraud. How common is Social Security fraud, identity fraud among illegal aliens in the United States? Is it rare? Is what happened in Iowa, is this just a freak occurrence, or is this much more rampant than the media wants us to believe?
I think it's very common, and the governors and mayors in the blue states are helping the process. I was reading an article just the other day that an illegal alien was arrested. I forget what state it was, but he was caught with thousands of driver's licenses with fake information, and he was selling them. My God. Seriously. Patty, look, I'm almost exasperated, so forgive me how this question is coming across, but we are such a great country. Really, honestly, we're the greatest country in the history of the world. How could we allow ourselves to get to this point? Like, where's our pride? Where's our dignity? Where's our patriotism? I don't mean you. I don't mean this audience, obviously. But I'm just talking about, these blue state mayors, these blue state governors, these Democrats, so many of them. Like, how could you just allow people to trample into your country and live off the fat of the land and just rob you blind? Rob taxpayers blind?
and commit crime after crime, fraud upon fraud. They're turning this country into a joke. Patty, really, what is wrong with us? Seriously, what's happened to the United States? Why is this being allowed to happen?
Because the Democrats hate America. They've been trying for decades to destroy this country. They believe the lies that this country was founded on slavery and we're racist and irredeemable. And, you know, I mean, that's the kind of stuff they're teaching in the schools, too, so kids are graduating believing that.
You know, I think you put your finger on it. They've been spewing hatred for this country for so long. So many of them believe it. They've bought it hook, line, and sinker, swallowed it hook, line, and sinker, that they just want to destroy it now. It's not worth preserving. It's not worth cherishing. It's not worth defending. Patty, dynamite call. Thank you so much for that call. Well, remember what Obama said. He openly said this. Not only did he want to fundamentally transform the United States into a socialist, country, into a third world socialist country, but he said we have to be knocked down a peg or two. In other words, don't think you're going to be so rich and prosperous and free. Those days are gone. I'm going to knock you guys down a little bit. And that's exactly what he's done. 617-266-6868. Donald in Raynham. Thanks for holding, Donald, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Donald.
It's been a long time, my good man. How you been?
Good. It's great to hear your voice again, Donald. Donald, what do you make of this, my friend?
I'll say it real quick. I think this guy is a loan shark also, because before you go to a gunfight, if you don't have a gun, you bring a knife. He's always carried a knife. He weaseled his way to get a gun, and he's just, if the IRS jumps on his money, they're going to find out what's going on with this chump. Would you agree?
And you're saying that's why he had all this cash in the car. He's a loan shark. Donald. I was thinking drug dealer, but I think you're more on than I am. I think your guess is better than mine. Look, he was a criminal in other ways. There were other criminal activities, and we're going to find out. Donald, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Forget lines loaded. I'm talking lines screaming. Clearly, this story has really struck a chord with many of you in Kuhner country. Let me ask all of you, do you think this is more common than the media is letting on? The way the media had to concede to the story, obviously, and it's a big black mark. They know that. It's a black eye on them, on the Democrats, on Des Moines, the school board, the whole thing, DEI, the Biden era where they just allowed anybody to pour into the country. So they know now this is a very bad look, but they're trying to sell the narrative or the story that, wow, how could this have happened? My God, it's a one in a million that this is just an exceptional, unique circumstance. I don't think it is. In fact, I know it isn't. And so my question to you is, how widespread do you think this is? 617-266-6868. Chris in Situate. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Kuhner man, I'm a 29-year-old blue-collar worker. Where's my free health care? Where's my free dental care? Where's my prepaid debit card? I deal with these illegal immigrants all the time on job sites, and they pull up with brand-new trucks, brand-new cars, don't speak a lick of English, and they whip out their phones that we probably pay for and use Google Translate. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Interesting. Chris, if you don't mind me asking, do they have it? Well, obviously they have a driver's license, I assume. Do they give you a phony baloney social security number like this guy did from Guyana?
I mean, if they're all doing it. They're all doing it.
Now, Chris, I'm just curious. Why then are employers hiring them? Right? I mean, they know they're committing fraud. They know they're here illegally. They know they don't have the legal authorization to work. They know it's identity fraud. It's social security fraud. So why are they hiring them? Is it because they can pay them lower wages and they collect all these government benefits so they can pay them more under the table? Is that what it is?
It's cheap labor. They're paying them under the table. And it's like Americans like me, they have to pay them well. But if they go with an illegal immigrant, they can pay them $10, $12, $15 an hour under the table, and that's how they get away with it. And it's like these contractors and these companies that are hiring these illegals, and they know that they're illegals, maybe they have to start getting fined daily per illegal that they hire, and maybe then they'll think twice about hiring an illegal immigrant and actually giving a job to a hardworking American.
So basically, Chris, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're basically saying is just the way that Iowa school board deliberately looked the other way. They knew he was illegal. They knew he was lying. They knew he had padded his resume. They knew he had a criminal background. They knew everything about him was fake. Okay, fake as a $3 bill. You're saying it's the same thing in the construction business. They know, and they're looking the other way, correct?
It is.
Wow.
Exactly what it is.
Chris, how do you get by? If I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Your wages are being undercut. These people are stealing your jobs. You know, I mean, it's got to be hard for you to find jobs on these construction sites. You don't get free health care. You're not getting catered meals. You're not getting Section 8 or hotels. You're not being given $2,000 a month in prepaid debit cards. So you're not getting all of these massive free government benefits. How do you get by?
Working 50-plus hours a week, overtime. I mean, it's hard to put food on the table. It's hard to pay rent. You know, it's hardworking Americans like me are struggling every day, and the Democrats, they don't care about us. They don't.
Makes my blood boil. Seriously. Chris, thank you very much for that call. And honestly, God bless you. Because you're speaking what many people are thinking. Many people listen to this show, work on construction sites, and they see what you're seeing. But you had the guts to call in and to call it out. So there you go. They're coming in beautiful pickup trucks. I know, I see them at the grocery store. I like beautiful pickup trucks, practically brand new. Beautiful phones. And the carts, 2 carts, not one, 2 carts, loaded with food. Loaded. And, and I'm looking, and not, as he said, not a lick of English. They Google Translate. That's what they click. Okay, hold on. Uno momento. And then Google Translate. And, food stamps. I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank. 617-266-6868. Mary on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Mary, and welcome.
I'm looking at this illegal situation with the Social Security with a little bit more anger, I think, than perhaps some people. I know we're all angry, but I wanted to let people know that I have a son that has Down syndrome. He's 21 years old. He cannot work. He's not capable of working. And my husband and I have been trying now. Last month, it was 1 year that we have been working on trying to get him Social Security. We have sent in every single form they have asked for. We have sent every single document.
Mary, I'm up against a hard break. Please, I want you to tell your story. Okay, I want to go right back to Mary on Cape Cod. Just very quickly, before I do, This is a text I received from a dear friend of mine. He's a veteran, former Marine or whatever. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But he has also been working in the construction business. He's a construction worker. And this is what he wrote regarding to Chris's call about how it's inundated with illegal aliens who drive around with, brand new pickup trucks and they have beautiful cell phones, and they could collect all these benefits and then also get wages under the table. And they have phony social security numbers and are committing all kinds of identity fraud. Jeff, Chris is 100% correct. I spent 30 years in the construction field, and this has been happening for decades. And then he adds, they don't speak any English. This person adds, however, they speak English when it comes time to get paid. Just saying. Yeah, then their English is perfect. Then suddenly they can talk. Okay, let's go right back to Mary on the Cape. This is what is so immoral and evil about all this Social Security fraud. This is an American citizen, a woman, who has a 21-year-old son with Down syndrome. Oh, he can't work. Obviously, he's got Down syndrome. Social Security and Medicaid on top of that is meant exactly for people like her son. This is a genuine disability. This is an American citizen who needs our help. She has been trying for a year to get Social Security to give this poor young man the benefits that he's entitled to. And they've been sending paperwork after paperwork after paperwork. They ask for everything under the sun, and they're still waiting. Mary, please pick up where I left off.
And thank you, Jeff. And I think that this situation where these illegals just walk into this country and automatically, within hours, it seems, are able to obtain these benefits. And I don't want to make it all about me, but I'm trying to make the point of this is where this is just so bizarre and, as you said, immoral. And we have sent papers from his pediatrician. We have sent them from Mass General Hospital. We have sent them a report that was done by a doctor at Harvard for him. And they tell us, well, we sent it to the medical board for review. And they give us the number to call to see where it is in the system. And, of course, you can never speak to anyone. You have to leave a message. But does that person ever call back? No. That person will never call you back to let you know where your file is or where you are in the system. Nothing. Nothing. And this makes the situation so much more hurtful and really clear, crystal clear, as to if they do or not care about the people that live in this country. And obviously, now I need no more proof. They do not. They do not.
Well, Mary, look, I'm not trying to pour gasoline on the fire, but I got to state the obvious. This clown, this con man, this grifter, $300,000 a year, a bogus Social Security number. He says he got a PhD from Morgan State University. He lied. He literally made it up. They didn't even ask him for his diploma. They didn't even ask for his transcripts. They didn't even make a call. Like okay, how about, whatever. I'm just going to make up a number. 517-777-BS. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Hey, we got this guy, Ian Roberts. Yeah, we're going to make him our next superintendent. By the way, $300,000 a year. But let that go. He says he got a PhD from you guys. Did he? Can you just check your records? They didn't even do that. They didn't even do that. Doctor's report, Harvard, this doctor, that doctor, this report, that report. How long have you been waiting, Mary, if you don't mind me asking?
Last month in September, it was 1 year.
So basically now we're going into 13 months.
Yes.
And your son is 21 years old.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Here, this is it in a nutshell. The illegals get everything, and you're waiting with a son with Down syndrome. Does he know what's going on, Mary? Does he understand that he's not getting benefits and that your family's being treated so unfairly like this?
No, he doesn't. I mean, he is somewhat aware. He did have a small job for a couple hours a day a while ago, but he couldn't keep up and he couldn't listen. So they had to let him go, and I understand that. I have no animus towards them. It was perfectly understandable. At least they tried. They tried to help him and give him a little bit of pin money, but where he's legally, I believe, entitled to it, there's nothing.
Well, of course he's legally entitled to it. And Mary, honestly, this is what I mean when I say, yes, of course, we're all citizens and we're all Americans, but we're also a family. To me, a nation is a family. You know, to me, America is not just 340 million individuals. We're a family. Our country's our homeland. It's our home. And our citizens are like family members. And yeah, we take care of each other. And that's why we have this social safety net. And honestly, that's why I happily pay taxes, to help my fellow Americans, exactly like your son. You know, exactly. Poor man has Down syndrome. Even with Down syndrome, he's trying to work. He's like, I don't know if you can. No, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. And so, in fact, he wants to contribute. He's trying to do everything he can to contribute. That's exactly why we have a social safety net. By the grace of God, there go I. I could have been born with Down syndrome. Other people listening, I mean, that's how it's not his fault. It's nobody's fault. And that's exactly where the government should come in to help. And instead, look, I'm telling you, this is the quiet part out loud. They don't have the money. I mean, they have the money, but when you're giving so much of it to the illegals, there's nothing left for Americans. That's why everything is being slow-walked. That's what I mean. It is so immoral. I can't tell you how more. You're helping illegals, foreigners, criminals over your own. Over your own. Mary, please tell your boy a big hello from the Kuhner man. And please, don't be a stranger. Call. I want to know what happens. If need be, we're going to have to put a lot more public pressure and get your son the benefits that he's entitled to. Mary, thank you very much for that call. There you go. In a nutshell, in one story, here is exactly what's wrong with open borders, with illegal immigration, and with liberalism. 617-266-6868 is the number. Charles in Vermont. Thanks for holding, Charles, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I know you're short on time, so I just want to say 4 or 5 things because it's kind of all over the board. But number one, in Maryland, which is kind of like a small state, they say there's hundreds of thousands of people voting illegally. If you take all the other states, it's going to be, 10, 15 million? That's number one. Number two is that my wife was born in Rosemere, Quebec, which I'm sure that you know where that is.
Yes.
And we just had our 31st anniversary yesterday. And we got married in 94 and 96 because she had the pink card, I forget what it's called, but you probably know about it. We went downtown to Boston and went to the Salt building. Now, she had relatives apply for citizenship because they were, moving here and investing and stuff. And they're like, you have to get an immigration lawyer because, as you probably know, you get one chance every 6 months. And they're like, you don't want to blow it. So I paid $5,000, and we get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Make a long story short, they took us at 4:30 in the afternoon. We were the only white couple in there. I'm not ashamed to say that. But every person that they called up, they had interpreters, they had legal advice lawyers there, helping them all the way for nothing. And then on top of it all, when it came up to pay, it was $385. So I had $400 on me, and they said, we don't take cash. This is 96. I was like, okay, well, here's my credit card. They're like, no, we don't take a credit card. And so they're like, we might take, like, a certified check. So at City Hall Plaza across the street, there was a bank. So I said, listen, can I run across? The guy goes, I'll give you, like, 8 minutes. So I ran across the street, blah, blah, got a check. I'm coming up. And they were pushing my wife away, saying, no, he's not back. I'm like, I got the check. So blah, 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 make a long story short. He tells me in the elevator that he looked at her ring. I'm not ashamed to say it. I worked very hard to buy a really nice ring. And he actually said to her, oh, I guess you can't wait to get on welfare, etc. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, number 3.
Unbelievable. So this was in 1996, correct, Charles?
Correct. And this
my
is another thing, too, is that my brother-in-law is also from Rosemary. He would come down for 4 or 5 months and stay with us. And you know that Canadians have to be back like 2 days before 6 months or they lose their health care, right? So we would play hockey, and the police department in Reading, Wilmington, South Andover, they say, well, where's your mother? I'm like, oh, he had to go back to Canada. They're like, why? I'm like, well, he has to go back there and stay there for a month or two, because he'd be illegal. They're like, Canadians not allowed here? The police didn't know this.
That's incredible. Wow, that's incredible. No, and look, just to go back to your first point, Charles. So, and this is 96. So we're talking 30 years ago now. Okay. So you've got people coming up. Everything is being paid for them, free. Translators free. Lawyers free. You're paying $5,000 for your lawyer to get your wife citizenship. And, you got to pay through the nose. You want to offer cash. They won't pay for the cash, the $385 filing fee. Can you take credit card? No. You got to get a check. You get the check, run across the street, get the certified check, you come back. And then the guy on top of it all looks at your wife's ring, and you worked hard for that ring to put on her finger, and he says to her, oh, yeah, I bet you're here to get on welfare. Yeah. What about you? What about all the other people there that are getting free lawyers and free translators? What do you think? They're there to work, or are they there to get free welfare? No, Charles, I'll tell you, anti-white discrimination. That's what this was. It's so obvious. And this is what I mean. This constant illegal immigration that's been going on for decades and decades and decades, it is going to destroy this country.